According to Jayan Sheba's commentary, there are 13 categories in the actual way to meditate on equalizing and exchanging self with others. Today, Rinpoche went through 5 of those categories.
Oh, yeah, that's Shola Jungla, then Dajanabaji, when Sanchi should Maraba. Sajin Olo Shola Jungla, then Dajanabaji, Gune Jungla, then Jambala Sum, Dajan Ji, Majibi Mi, Dajan Ji, Samba Kuna Chenuba, Dajan Ji, Tu Gomezimba, Saji, Pejin the Chiriba.
Sumre.
Sumre,
Payun dan de tambo. Tambo.
Maji Yemi Sumba Nibaji, Dajan Ji, Samba Kuna Chenuba, Sumba Marba, and then Dajan Ji, Tu Gomezimba.
This Sumba. Itsu Gombi Rimba Sumba, Nipa. The tambo payun dan yemi.
Payun dan ji marba.
Payun dan.
Yemi samba nije.
The tambo.
Ale.
The nyamdu tambo.
Yemi samba nyandu insare.
Lesso.
Payun dan yemi samba jije.
Lesso.
Dajen ji samba kuna chen nyeba nyeba je.
Lesso.
Dajen ji chu gombe zimba sumba.
Lesso.
Sumba insare.
Tatayin. So once again, we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. Do we have any extra books? Do we know? I see a couple new people here. If you want to just pass one over this way, it's just nice to have a book to kind of follow along with. Thanks. Just pass down this way. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Welcome. Welcome. We're, just to get everybody to where we are in the text, we're on page 50 area. The numbers actually start at 52, so it's the chapter 4, exchanging self and others. So that's where we're at. So once again, we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, specifically the section on training the mind in the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. And we've gone through part of that already, and we've arrived at the section on the causal lineage for achieving or realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment that has been passed down from Master Shantideva, called Equalizing and Exchanging Self with Others practice. So that's chapter 4 in the English. The pages that I said around the 50s, early 50 area. And when we look at that, the major heading is called the training based on the teachings of the conqueror's child, Shantideva. And then there are 3 categories. First, contemplating the benefits of exchanging self and others and the faults of not exchanging self with others. So the benefits and the faults are one category. The second category is the ability to exchange self and other if you accustom yourself to the thought of doing so. So through familiarization. And then number 3 is the stages of meditating on how to exchange self and other.
What about the Sajil?
Lesso.
Sajil, the Jetanga, so the Dajan Ji, Samako, Sumba, the Tarinti Sumba, the means that Talan Chimbo, Page, Sunja, Juzere, Putti,
Okay.
What the Tamatama del Dua, Dajan Ji, Kesa, Gumbi, Gumbi, 2 months. What the Jaji Saji Saji
Deta Dajin JP Ge. Okay, Gesa.
Dajin Ji Gesa, ne? Gesa Katu Nimba, Gesa Moda, Konsa Nimba. What the Sasaro?
Are they? Dit's go get me up here. 3:17. Ale, the Dasi Dang, Dochu. Okay. The Dochu, the Ne. Deta, Ge. Okay. Rasong. So we're on page 55 in the English. So Rinpoche said we're in the section called the stages of meditating on self and other. and we're going to move right to page 55 in the English. Yes. Dala Chapi. Okay. Dedash.
Dajin ji chu gombe rinpa se wate somba tere nwa.
Leso.
Somba tere wate katu tere kwa manra chusung wa janji bi chaji chusung disha.
Jusum.
Chusung.
Okay. So in this section, we've gone over some already. So we're in the third category, which is the stages on how to equalize and exchange self with other. The stages of meditating on how to exchange self and other. So there are 13 categories, according to Jayan Sheba's commentary. And we've arrived, I guess, at the point where Rinpoche is saying we're going to start, which is on page 55. After you have eliminated the obstacles, is the first sentence he showed me. So we'll see. He hasn't started yet, but that's the first sentence Rinpoche showed me. Diksum.
Oh, hola. Oje tato tomo tene watere tere. Dajin ji gese ne gombe rinpa gombe chungwa la. Gombe chungwa ne se wate kong tele kwa manra chusung se re. Janji saji chusung din tomo tele yung re. Tomo te wate dala chabi wang ges.
Rinpoche, the dit school, the chikshena, the nge hakogamare, nge tsampa, the puyik, the sumja, the jusum,
Chujire.
dajen jepi tsu gombi rimba ne.
Puyik chujire no chujire.
Yine nge the sumja, the jusum, dajen jepi tsu gombi rimba ni, drapudu, the juje dan drapudu.
The puyik the chibaro.
The chipa, yine the dajen jepi su gombi rimba ne sumja jusung toga gutsogudu. The drapudu jusum dan dra rimbache.
Te mari chusung mari chujire.
Juje, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then kashe tsar.
Yeah.
The gombi rimba kashe tsar rimbache? Or the tsarpa? Then sumba.
Then okay,
Rinpoche. It's somebody, you might be. The dar. Yine drapo do. Yine they got Rinpoche. The.
Ji su gombe rimbas tamal mas mamu yonso de luga jire.
Okay. Gangen sina de uma. The juje.
Ji gombe tarin de.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to start on page 53. There are 13 categories. I'm sorry, 55. I'm not sure, but we're going to start on page 55. And there are 13 categories under this major heading, the stages of meditating on how to exchange self and other. So it's going to start on 55. Okay.
Dala chabi on case. Dala chabi on case. Susul chabayor, susul gabayor.
Okay.
Dala chabi on case. Rajeba Zwande, Kwa Toma Mebane, Tabato, Medeba Natsu Chelasa. Then Susul Gabi, the Susul Chabayore,
Lessa.
Susul Chabajene, then Rajeba Zemate, Wangi, Chua Toma Meban Tadibato, and the Dundusun and Dusun, what to call Kune, Dundutang and Dugan, to go out to what the Rajin Dikishabares. Kwa Toma Meba ne Tabato, Medeba Natu Chelas, Rajin Latene, and also Kwa Ritul Kune, and Dungan Ramadan Hatu, but what the Rajin Debres, Dungan Hatu Chelas, Radwe Pansun Sobashi, Sheban Dujan, Rāngi tū zhōng de tā māyīn bā shō bī kēpā chāng lēn de bā sōng yāng rāng tā shēn jī tū kāng yāng mā rū. Nē mā rū bā tū mā zēs tū ngēn bā jī kī nā wā chō rō tū ngēn mā jī bī nā wā chō rō. Rāng tū jī sāmbā tī shēn lā pū nē shū nā chē shīn tū ngā wā sāng jī nē rā yé jī tuñ tāng jī pēng sūng sū bā jō dūn mā zā wā lā tā tā mā jī bī kā lā tuñ mē bī tuñ tā sū wā sā wā tē chū sūng nā tāng bū tē rē chū sūng nā tāng bū tē dā lā chā bī wā tā kāng tē rāng jī bān jī bī jī tē wā kī nā rūwā rī chū kī dū ngē kāng tū wā tī rē bī rē sī rāng jī jī lā tē nē dū ngē kāng yung gu wā rē shī jī tāng jī kī dū ngē dū gu wā mā rī tē dū ngē yung dū yā tē rāng jī jī kī rē bī rē sī tē nē rāng pēng sūng sū bā bā jī tō mā mē bā nē sū sū pēng sūng sū bā shī shē bā dō bā yu wā rē sī dō yā jāng rāng kī tēng sū sūng tē tō mā yīn bā lā shū bē kē bā tāng lēn tē bā sōng yāng rāng tāng shēn jī tuñ kāng yā mā rū sī rāng shēn tā shēn bā rāng tuñ tā shēn bā tāng shēn jī tā shēn bī tuñ kāng yā chū yō mā rē sī mā rū bā tāng tū mā zē dū ngēn bā jī kī nā wā chū rō sī dū ngēn bā jī kī wā tē dū ngēn tō mā nyō gu chū yō rē sī nā wā chū rō rāng tuñ jī sāng bā tē shēn lā pū nē sī rāng tuñ jī rāng jī bā jī bā tē zhēn jī bā jī bā yī na rāng jī bā jī bā nā zhēn jī bā jī bā yī bā yī na zhēn lā pū nā sī pū nē shū nā chē shīn tū ngā wā sāng jī nē rā zhēn jī tuñ tāng jī pēng sūng sū bā jū wā dūn mā zā wā lā sī chē shīn tū ngā sāng jī tsā bā rē sī tā ngā sū wā tā mā jī bā jī rā tuñ sū jī nē tā tā mā jī bī kā lā tuñ mē bī tuñ tā sū sī chū sūng nā tāng bā tī rē kā lē jū kā lē
So among the 13, we begin with the point here. So after you have eliminated the obstacles to exchanging self and other in this way, the actual way to meditate is as follows. So I think under the category heading, and like just as a note, the category heading I think is the actual way to meditate. There are 13 categories. So number 1, out of attachment to self, your self-cherishing attitude has produced all sorts of undesirable things throughout the beginningless time of cyclic existence to now. Although you wanted to make things perfect for yourself, you emphasized your own welfare and engaged in improper methods. You have spent countless eons at this, but have not at all accomplished your own or others' aims. Not only have you not achieved these, you have been tormented only by suffering. If you had replaced concern for your own welfare with concern for others' welfare, you would certainly have already become a Buddha long ago and would have completely and perfectly accomplished your own aims as well as those of others. As you did not do this, you have spent your time uselessly and laboriously. So the first point here is that since beginningless time, all of the suffering that you've had to experience in the 3 higher realms of cyclic existence, the gods, humans, and demigods, the 3 lower realms of cyclic existence of the hell, hungry ghosts, and animals, all of the sufferings that have been experienced in any among those 6 realms were a direct result of a self-cherishing attitude. And if we had exchanged this attitude, the way that is being spoken of here, and we had taken on an attitude that cherished others, we would have become a Buddha many lifetimes ago. But we haven't chosen to do so, and now as a result, we are still in cyclic existence because we still have this grasping at an attitude which cherishes ourselves. So it says, you have spent countless eons at this and have not at all accomplished your own or others' aims. So one has not become liberated, one has not achieved Buddhahood. These things haven't been achieved. And you've been at this since beginningless time, over and over again. The self-cherishing attitude has not been abandoned because out of attachment to self. So it starts out with that. Out of attachment to self, your self-cherishing attitude has always produced all types of suffering since beginningless time. And then later the point is if you had exchanged self with other, if you had taken on an attitude which replaced concern for your welfare with concern for others' welfare, then Buddhahood would have already occurred. That's the point. Here and Dixon. That's so.
Da jinjin la date des, ran jinjin la data. Da jinjin la date de, jo mujub sunes. Ane wate, jo tumama ban tatiba tu da ran jinjin la date ne, ane nga so sam tango yo mares. Date de mujub sunes. Da nipa oten ma, da ne te teresa oten ma nipa de le ware. 다는 때에서 구조 땡게 지는 구조도 이거 따로 내도 그래. 다는 때에 쉐바ሼ라스 라제지 튜여 바다 제제지라 여대 바다 쉐바ሼ라
Lesso.
다이추 다 제반제바 라제지 다이추 다 제반제반데 템바다 시지 때네스 네 라제지도 어때 야부 쉐바제네 마지바지 템바다 그용도 도움도 시진기 샤라시고 그래서 시진 때네 베바트메 칼리모부자고 그래서 베바트메 마제바 마제바다스 라제지 마제바다 제제지 제바 준투도 네 준투도 머주고 냐베 네 네바템버 셰네 Lan toma komba shete, lan toma komba shete, shuenju no drango duwa, shuenju les, di jata tangche do, kuwa dala nyoba shes, rang chenzen di, chewa jata mambule, chewa jata tangche do, kuwa la kui tse, dala nyoba mambu she wares, nga son tang, dendro tanga nul che ne, dunga mambu nyungdu goya de, rāng jīnzī tīki jūshī pala tēne shōngu yuwa rēs, kuwa tāla nyoba shē, yechū rāng dūn shēn dui bē, kēpa tāmen dē chū chāns, sūshū sānglu dē wā tē, rāng kī tuandā tē shēn dui bē, kēpa tāmen dē chū chāns, ngā chenpo tē tā bē, chū jī dungān bā jī rūs, wā tē, rāng la tēne wate dungān bāji chōngi wārēs, chōji dungān bāji dū, shē dāng. Kēdi chōji ngā dū sō, lēndi shē bā chōna nē, kēdi chōji ngā dū sō rāng chēnzi tēl dā tē yō bā yīnā, lēndi shē bā chōna nē, sāngshī pānsū tē mē bā, nē gān tēndā, Jumesis, what about the neighborhood when you but tell him to wa? Shenju, Chewa Jata Tanji, Kuatala, Nebashi, Takante, Chewa Jata Mobile Tendang Asul Dungan to go at the Rajin Shebares, Rajin in Debares, Chewa Jata Tanji to Kuatala, Nebashi, Kuala Kuite, and then Asul Dungan de at what nöba shigen rajin zidres, kuwa dala nöba shi, ichu randun shen döbes, susu rangi dönda shen döbi, keba tramen de ju chang, ane chu kali kasi jaba ina, keba ngewa chenpo tetabi, chu ju dungen baji du, wate dungen matu, dungen pompi sanji dunga yo mares, 최저 동안 바지 두세 dans 게데 어데 쇼주 임바레 게데 최제 하두소 렌드 셰바 존나스 하두소 라진을 준데 라진을 다다 다요바이나 렌드 셰바 존나네 상제 판수 데메바 상제 판수 데메바 나가 된다 좀메시스 상제 판수 소바도 도와메바 너 고알로 그 어디다 진조시가 말해 하는 상제에서 버렸어 제소 어디바들 니바들에 니바들 무도와 그래 주가
Moa Yoruba? Nipa? Nipa Moa Yoruba?
니바 데바들에 데바도
The Tsar.
대따라서 어떤 무슨 말이야
Chunjuk, the long then a Tsar.
쉐주고 롱다 쉐주고 롱니 노니
Less so.
어디니 사소는
Then
니바
Tsar.
산데
Okay. So number 2, among the 13, begins here. Make a firm determination by thinking, now I understand the faults of self-cherishing and the benefits of cherishing others. With great effort, relying on mindfulness and vigilance, I will discontinue the present self-cherishing, my greatest enemy, and I will not allow my potential self-cherishing attitude to arise. In this way, frequently stop self-cherishing. Engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds says, self-cherishing has tormented me in all my myriad lifetimes in cyclic existence. You, O mind, though you spent countless eons wanting to accomplish your own welfare, through such great hardship you have accomplished only suffering. If formerly you had acted for others' welfare, this condition which lacks the perfect happiness of Buddhahood could not possibly have occurred. So here, the point, the proof that you have not abandoned the self-cherishing attitude is that you have not achieved Buddhahood, because abandonment of that attitude gives rise to Buddhahood. If you are not a Buddha, then you have not abandoned that attitude. It's a sign that proves this point. So going back to the top, understand the faults of self-cherishing and benefits of cherishing others. All the negativities, all the downfalls, all the sufferings in all the 6 realms of cyclic existence arise from self-cherishing, and all the excellent qualities, all of the positive things arise from cherishing others. So we then begin to really look at self-cherishing as an enemy. We change this attitude, which we see self-cherishing as a good thing, and begin to look at it as an enemy, and begin to take on an attitude which cherishes others as a result of recognition, or as a result of recognizing that what we thought was correct is actually incorrect, and actually to be abandoned and is our enemy. So this then is created through constant reminder or constant familiarization with this fact. And then all of these points that are made in the body here are supported by Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where it says the same thing, that in all lifetimes in cyclic existence, self-cherishing has harmed me, so has caused all harm, has caused all suffering. And then it says, you, O mind, though you spent countless eons wanting to accomplish your own welfare through great hardships, such great hardships, you have accomplished only suffering. So even though this self-cherishing attitude in your mind was going to give rise to happiness, that this idea that cherishing yourself causes happiness gave rise to actually the opposite. It says you have accomplished only suffering. And then it goes on to then prove that the self-cherishing attitude hasn't been abandoned. It says, if formerly you had acted for others' welfare, this condition which lacks the perfect happiness of Buddhahood could not possibly have occurred. You couldn't possibly be in the position you are in now if you had abandoned self-cherishing, because you'd be a Buddha. So that's the point of Shantideva's quote, and that's where number 2 ends. Digsun. Consciousness. Yes.
다 이지 쉐바 인그로 이지 쉐바
Yep.
이지 쉐바라 또바도 또면 쉐바 니요로 가르인스 어디서 뒤바 이나 갈레가라 산타우도
Dopadan Dome? Okay.
야
Okay. So when we analyze the self-cherishing attitude, is the attitude that cherishes oneself, is it consciousness? Is it physical consciousness? Is it mental consciousness? So when we look at the physical consciousnesses, there are the five physical or sometimes sense consciousnesses: the eye, ear, nose, tongue, tactile. Where did I miss? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, tactile are the five consciousnesses of physical. And then mental consciousness is the sixth consciousness. And when we divide consciousness into categories, we can divide it into conceptual consciousness and non-conceptual consciousness. Okay?
당아서 어디 또바요로 또바 라제닐 또바 마도 네 또면 쉐바 요즘 말에 이 이실라 원송 당 또바 니는 또바 마도 원송 요즘 말어 아 네 라제닐 또바 인그로 또바 다던데 룬즈 쉐리 또비세니 말베
That's good. Dopi
다던데
Sini.
룬즈
Lorigan?
로리
Yeah,
들어
Lorig. Okay. Ngay Jason.
다 돈다 고아들
Here it
러잖아
is.
아무나 다던데 룬즈 쉐리 또비세니 또발에나 뭐부자요로 아
Okay. So, Dopa Gitseni
유튜브
Yuri.
또바도 유튜브 또바 뭐부자요로 아
Okay, so when we divide this consciousness into categories, this mental consciousness, there are two: the conceptual consciousness and non-conceptual consciousness. So the definition of a conceptual consciousness is a determinative knower that apprehends a sound generality and a meaning generality as suitable to be mixed. So that's the definition of conceptual consciousness. When we look at the self-cherishing attitude, it categorically falls under conceptual consciousness. It doesn't fall under the category of direct valid cognition, because then it would necessarily be non-conceptual, because just as a note, the definition of direct valid cognition is that it's part of its qualification is that it's free from conceptuality. Dopa Danjel Xing. Yeah, so it's free from conceptuality, an incontrovertible knower that is free from conceptuality. Knowing that, then the self-cherishing attitude is necessarily a conceptual consciousness. Okay.
다 또바서는 번나 단당아서 소소소 강반도 용어로다. 강반도 단단데 데도 안나 다가 강반도 용어바이 상당도 가지도 어디 또바 말도 또바로다.
The Yanjusurana.
아주 그걸 소소소 강반도 용어로.
Yong.
강반도
Okay.
용네.
Going to come in.
조술 해요로. 단데 조술 데도들 다가 강반도 용어바이 모란 용어바이 상도 가지도 어디 또바 말도 또바로다.
Okay. So what is an example of conceptual? So conceptual is, for instance, when we're sitting here now and we're thinking, how did we come to the center? How did we arrive here? What were we driving? When did we come? How did we come? Like these kinds of questions. These are all conceptual consciousnesses where we're relying on these concepts to form ideas. So when we came and so forth. So this is relying on conceptual. And when we look at conceptual consciousness, it can be divided into many different categories. Rinpoche said we can divide it into three and then further subdivide it You can divide it into prime, subsequent, and those that are neither among the prime nor subsequent, and so forth. So there's many ways to divide these conceptual consciousnesses. Gongyal Mepachi Rinpoche. Okay.
어떤 가 가만세 용바이 모든 용바이 다른 건데 산루지도 두 번 말해.
So I came to the center and I drove into the center. When you're sitting here, I drove here in a car. This is all conceptual consciousness. Dikson.
근데 미식이 소통으로 이든 가도 통나 와데 데이레샤 데 가도레샤 쇼고 템바지 텐데야지 뭐돼. 어떤 거 두 번.
So when we apprehend, for instance, a shape or a form, when we think about it, this shape is this, and this form is that. I think you said color. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. It'd be the same exact point, but your mind is, when it's thinking, this is this kind of color or shape, then this is conceptual consciousness. Dikson.
단준 잡고 란해보다 잡면해보고 어떤 단든 해보도 매해보도 냐베 쇼고 템바제 대는도 템바 어떤 두바로
So for instance, when the ear consciousness apprehends a sound, so there are pleasant and unpleasant sounds. So the thinking about this is a pleasant sound or not a pleasant sound is the conceptual consciousness. Dikson.
주다테 저는 아주 저초도 어떤 저도 아무것도 어떤 쇼고 템바제 대는도 어떤 두바로 왔다 론용도 로신부터 매진부터 가지 마트에 대해서도 근데 제간 장르에서 그걸로 쇼고 템대 두바.
So, and then we look at the other types of consciousness. There are good and bad smells. So when we think, this is a good, bad, or a bad smell, this thinking of the smell is the actual conceptual the conceptual nose consciousness apprehending. So apprehension. So this almost labeling, but it's not the labeling. It's anyway. I'm just going to straight translate. So then the tongue consciousness. There are bad tastes. There are good tastes, sweet, sour, and so forth. This thinking of what the taste is the conceptual consciousness. The tactile sensations, there are soft and rough and so forth. This thinking, this is soft, this is rough, that's conceptual consciousness. Yishe?
이제 네 이제다 라진이 무슨 있어 말이야. 라진이나 시험차. 이제나 라진이 맞아 쇼스나 아니 좀 쇼샤주 생쇼주 근데 잘
Yep. Ninji. Then Nika Mayimbimu. Layla.
네가 많이 밀려서
Yine ngeng Lama go Chiran Gegen. Then Nika Mayimbimu.
네가 뭐 그쪽 가지 않는 레라 그러다.
Okay.
쉐바 많이 밀자 뒤로.
Okay, less so. So if we were to compare the two topics, mental consciousness and self-cherishing attitude, would there be 3 permutations, 4 permutations, mutually exclusive, or would they be synonymous? And when we analyze these, we would see that there are 3 permutations. If it is self-cherishing attitude, it is necessarily a mental consciousness, but if it is a mental consciousness, it's not necessarily a self-cherishing attitude. If you say posit that which is not self-cherishing attitude, but is mental consciousness, you could say compassion or bodhicitta. Then when we follow it further, we would say, is there something which is both? Is there a common locus between self-cherishing attitude and mental consciousness? Yes. An actual, some sort of self-cherishing attitude would be the example. Rinpoche just said the Nika Yimba? Yeah. Okay. So Rinpoche said, for instance, he's speaking to me, your self-cherishing attitude. So the subject, your self-cherishing attitude, would be a subject which is both self-cherishing attitude and mental consciousness, or my self-cherishing attitude. So that's a common locus. And then something which is neither, I asked Rinpoche, and he said, anything that's not consciousness. So he said, you can think of what those would be. There's so many examples. I said, what I was saying is, I don't want to make this up. I'm not the teacher. Just tell me an example of something. And he said, it's so easy. Tell them to come up with something. So I'll leave you with that. Less so. Less so. Ran Chenzing. Oh, okay. Less so. Okay. So the question Rinpoche is asking then, when we look at the self-cherishing attitude, which among the 7 categories of consciousness would we say that it falls into? Does it fall? So when we divide consciousness into categories, there are 7 categories. So what does it fall into? Rinpoche is asking. Does it fall into direct valid cognition? Does it fall into inferential valid cognition? Does it fall into subsequent cognizers? Does it fall into correctly assuming consciousness? Does it fall into awareness to which the objects appear but are not ascertained? Does it fall into doubt? I think doubting consciousness. Does it fall into wrong consciousness? So that was 7, right? So those are the 7 types of consciousness. And Rinpoche just asked the question, which among those 7 would you say that self-cherishing attitude falls into? Any answers? The Lo She, Kongi Tsampa, Lu She. The Chris Tsampa, the Lo Rik Dun, the Lo She. Ran Chenzing, Lo She.
Lo She is the what did learn about what Rajin Lo She in the Roa. You do the Raja to Rani Jibu Tabatona, Bisanlu de Lo She, Rajin the I means.
Okay, so that's a good answer. He said, but if you say that, then the attitude that a hearer and a solitary realizers have in terms of getting to nirvana, is that wrong consciousness?
When
I think to myself, I want to feel good, I'd like to feel pleasant, is that self-cherishing attitude, is that wrong consciousness? Is that self-cherishing attitude a wrong consciousness? I want to feel good? It's important to think about everything. This is something that scholars debate. This is what scholars debate and go back and forth about. By doing this, then you really are able to analyze it in a thorough fashion, really thoroughly analyze it when you ask these sorts of questions. So when we say that this self-cherishing attitude is consciousness, and then we say that it falls categorically under a conceptual consciousness, then conceptual consciousness has mistaken and non-mistaken conceptual consciousness. So is it a mistaken consciousness or a non-mistaken? Is it a mistaken conceptual consciousness or a non-mistaken conceptual consciousness? Oh, Jen Tarpatu. Lesso. Jen Chenzin. Then Yanja Suralang?
다 젠진지 쇼스나
Less so.
젠진지 쇼스나
Ninji Chempo.
근데 젠 타바 도나냐 봐
Less so.
젠도 도나냐 봐
Less so.
근데 젠 상제나냐 봐 상로도 젠진지 얘기죠
Less so.
젠리 야부 도나냐 봐
Less so.
젠진지 봐
Less so. Then
다 젠진지라 도바이 맞춰보자 젠진지 상제주를 여들어 상제 보다 주지 젠진지도 그걸로 도박해야지 뭐
Yomari, Ngusum Sema.
무슨 이제로 젠진지다 또네 젠진지다 도발 말을 제가 가려있었다
Zhen Chenzing Dan Dopa.
젠진지 옛날 도바이 맞아
Ji.
상제 도주지 젠진지 주지 네 도바이 옛날 젠진지 맞아 먹어자요 네가 인바 쇼스나 샹주 선바 주지 젠진지 장지고로
Less so. Ji.
야 맞지
Okay.
인사말
So, when we look at an attitude that cherishes others, then posit this. What's an example of an attitude that cherishes others? It's an attitude that wishes that others achieve higher realm rebirth, an attitude that wishes that others achieve liberation, an attitude that wishes that others achieve the complete Buddhahood, an attitude that just wishes that others have happiness. So this attitude that wishes that others have happiness. So there are conceptual and non-conceptual forms of an other cherishing attitude? And if what are the possibilities or permutations between the other cherishing attitude and conceptuality? How many permutations are there between conceptual consciousness and other cherishing attitude? And if we ask that questions, we'll find that there are 4 permutations between conceptual consciousness and other cherishing attitude. Because if it is a conceptual consciousness, it is not necessarily an other cherishing attitude. Dopa yin, the Zhen Chenzing Ma yin, nge Jason. Ma yin.
도바이 젠진지 말봐 도바이
Dopa yin.
뭐자요
Mambo yin Chan.
나수 주주한테 단단한 가만히 용바 있어
Okay, I can. Okay, so an example of that, which is a conceptual consciousness but not an other cherishing attitude, is the thought that, oh, I came to the house this way in a car, etc. So this is a conceptual consciousness that is not cherishing others but is a conceptual consciousness. So that's one permutation. So then if we say that which is an other cherishing attitude but not conceptual, Zhen Chenzing Yin Dopa Ma Yin.
젠진지 도바 많이 보셔서나 상지가 도주지
Okay, that's right. Okay, I remember. So that would be the Buddha's great compassion that he or she has for sentient beings. Because as a note, and we spoke about this, so I'm not adding, the definition of direct valid cognition is that it's a new incontrovertible knower that is free from conceptuality. So within the definition is that it's free from conceptuality. A Buddha is omniscient. Everything the Buddha perceives, he or she perceives directly. So there is no inference going on. It's always direct valid cognition. So when the Buddha cherishes others, that's non-conceptual. So that would be an example. So that's the second permutation. Something which is both would be the thought, a conceptual thought to cherish others. I'll do something nice for others. And then something which is neither, again, would be many, many different things.
So
if we look at attitude cherishing others, and ngusum sama, dang ngusum, and the direct valid cognition. Less so. So direct valid cognition and other cherishing attitude. How many possibilities? 3 possibilities, 4 possibilities. Are they mutually exclusive or are they synonymous? The Nika Yimba.
상지 주지 희지든 희지 전부다 희지 전부 주지는 이거
Okay, so the Kanga, the Mukanga, then a
다 전진지
Musayin. Okay, Zhenchenzin, Musamayan.
전진지 영어서 많이 봐서나 상주 선배 주지 희지 전부 주지스
Shanchu Sem. What?
부드사바
Let's so.
부드사비 투지
Oh, Ninji Chenmo. Okay. Then a Musum Yin
영어서
Zhenchenzin Mayan.
내가 영어서 전진지 많이 봐 아주 매기 셔서 로지 메시 나시면 나시버도 잔지도
Oh, okay. Physical consciousness. Less. Okay. Kanga. So if we were to compare direct valid cognition and the other cherishing attitude, how many possibilities are there? And we could say that there are 4 possibilities, because if it is an other cherishing attitude, it is not necessarily direct valid cognition. You would say posit that which is, you would say a bodhisattva's great compassion, a non-Buddha's great compassion. So the great compassion in the continuum of a bodhisattva. This is other cherishing attitude, but not direct valid cognition. If we ask what is direct valid cognition, but not other cherishing attitude, we could say ascertainment of any of the physical sense power, consciousnesses. So eye seeing shape or color, ear hearing, nose smelling, tongue tasting something. These would all be direct valid cognition, yet not other cherishing attitude. Something which is both would be Buddha's great compassion. Something which is neither, there's many. Digson.
나도 매기 다 줄대가 줄대네
So your eye consciousness sees a form.
메시가 줄 세비시부 통거를 받아 메마존에 줄 산담바이나 메시가 통나지 통도 어디 줄을 차대 임발라 메실 차나 세비 차면도 어디 두바레스 두바
Less so. So, for instance, when your eye consciousness sees the kado shape, sees a shape.
가린 체가요 뭐
Rinpoche said it doesn't matter; it's the same thing. So, if it says that your eye consciousness sees a shape, for instance, you see it. That is direct. If you close your eyes and then think about the shape, that's conceptual. So, seeing it is direct perception. But when you close your eyes and think about what that shape looks like, you can have a picture of the shape in your mind. That's conceptual. Not direct perception is the direct ascertainment. Conceptual would be like closing your eyes and thinking of the shape.
어디 때도 라자나 카톨레 아브라 망에나 도바산은 디사브르스 도바 터중사수나 터중사는 호텔 칼레 산탄데 그레스 산탄 칼레 시행고
So this is very important, because when we do this, doubts arise in your mind. And from doubts, then investigation occurs. So that's what the point of all of this is for you to hear these things, and then doubts arise. And this word doubt, again, it's the only word we use to translate this tetsum, but it's not a negative necessarily. In English, it seems like doubt's bad, but in Tibetan, it's considered a good thing, because there's a doubt that tends towards truth. So that has to occur in order for you to have like an epiphany, if you will. In order for you to have a realization, you have to have doubt, kind of. You have to doubt that things, as a translator's note, you have to have a doubt for you to begin to think about emptiness. You have to doubt that this thing is truly established in order to start thinking about it not being truly established. And then from doubt arises direct perception eventually. So that's the reason when Rinpoche says doubt arises, it's not bad. That's a very positive thing. That means that you're at a turning point in some way. So I just want to make sure when I use that word, it's really colored the way the Tibetan is. And it doesn't mean something bad or negative. It means like an epiphany is about to happen, or a change has happened of some sort in your mind has occurred. You're doubting what you knew before as to be right, or doubting that you know enough. It's the kind of thing that it is. It's more inspirational than we would normally think of the word doubt. Digsung Rinpoche.
멤버십 당 대지마다 주도도 그걸로 다음번에는 가서 산 담아도 나서 세고 더송사 그래서.
Lesso.
아니 그
Channel.
갈래 갈산다네. 아니 어디 도바 총으레스. 다 도바 줘야 되달 페나렌다다. 아니 대서 배발 찾아봐이나. 아니 줄로 지갈 요도요 되네. 대서 글로벌 제는 선대 가송스. 대본 가는 서라. 트라실nombo. What 손을 쪼다 쳐요. 저번 못 줘.
Lesso.
어디 도바 사야
The Chuluk Ji the Gare.
냐만까지 사자.
Oh, okay. Less, okay, Tuchina. Furthermore, the Four Noble Truths, and then the 16 attributes of the Four Noble Truths. This requires, at first, one has a doubt about these. And then from that doubt, investigation occurs about whether or not there is truth of suffering. Or truth of suffering. Oh, maybe there is an origin of the reason I suffer. That is the doubt we're talking about. It's more like a question that arises. So this doubt arises, and then what begins with a complete lack of understanding of something like the Four Noble Truths and the 16 attributes of the Four Noble Truths, and then transforms from this doubt into a true realization of those truths. So it begins with doubts. And it's this way that the great scholars of Nalanda University and the great scholars of the Tibetan universities, of the four orders of Tibetan Buddhism, of Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya, and Gelugpa, the great monasteries of the Gelugpa order of Tashi Lumpo and Ganden and Sera and Drepung, all of these scholars have utilized the method of debate and investigation in order to arrive at an understanding. All of these traditions have utilized this basis of doubt to then arrive eventually at a purposeful truth. And this is the reason for this investigation. It's to eventually end up at the correct point when you're beginning at an incorrect point. So the investigation corrects your points in the interim. So that's what the point of all of these texts that have been written are, and debates that occur there, in order for us to transform doubt into truth or realization. Digsung Rinpoche.
잡아다 안고 처음으로 루지는 것도 접어도 용으로서 대지면 동안에 가서 군주대 가서 뭐다 주로 가서 것도 접어줘도.
So thousands of monks and nuns every day debate, and they debate the questions of what is the truth of suffering? What is the origin of suffering? What are the 16 attributes of the Four Noble Truths? So thousands of monks every day ask these questions of each other, debate these questions to each other. So these days the Dalai Lama has even brought debate into the school systems. He sees it so helpful. So Dalai Lama has brought the debate into school. So then if he can utilize this technique in schools and it allows their wisdom or intelligence to be enhanced, then this is a good thing. If we can learn how to almost make people smarter through this technique, Rinpoche is saying, if I was loosely translating it. It's a good thing if we can make people smarter through this technique. Chimba. The undersurnan gongame piching the data lago. The Chimba Hakogudu, the householder. Genye
Wami now there's a man Euroda. What the sul trouble on. 저거 야버려 것도 고스레 봐봐요.
So this is not something that is only helpful for monks and nuns. This is also helpful for, I see. This isn't something that would only be helpful for monks and nuns. This is something that would help everyone who's trying to learn, householders and the ordained. Okay, Dikson. So when you do debate, what happens is a large amount of doubts begin to arise when you start debating. And when that occurs, then more learning occurs. Investigation from there occurs. It almost ignites the need. It's time to take a break, Rinpoche said, and have snacks and tea.
다 나비 주도 담을 자갈 사지가 송거로 말이야. 사지가 송 되네 자갈은 자날다 말이야. 자나. 되네 별다로. 별다로와. 내 나주대 자갈네 자날 가두다 버렸어. 웬 자갈네 별 가두다 버렸어. 집이나. What did Tenju 네, tenju 어때 tenju 가셔요로. tenju 가셔 수동. tenju 가셔 수동. 수동 자주 자질로 자주 자질. tenju 가셔 수동 자주 자질래. 네.
181.
자주 자질다. 원 말이다. 자주 자질.
181.
80.
1.
88.
88. Jachu jaje.
Jachu jaje.
J.
Jachu jaje. Jachu jaje. Tenju kacha. Jachu jaje. Jachu jaje.
Tanjor.
Tenju kacha.
Okay, so in the so Rinpoche say so when did Buddha bring the teachings? Okay, so I'm sorry, let me start that over. So the Buddha gave the original teachings in India, and then they went to Tibet, China, and then to Tibet, and so forth. So when did all of this dissemination of the teachings occur? So when we look in the Tanjur, the authentic Indian commentaries, Rinpoche said in, I think, folio 188, there's some way he's now cataloging.
88.
88, not 188, just 88. Folio 88, catalog number 88. It's just whichever or neither, but it's 88. It's in the Tanjur, and there Rinpoche said that it shows when this all occurred.
Well, what did Nabi Chuta? Hamu Tama maybe she will do less. Hamu Tama maybe Sanjil Shu. Hamu Tama maybe Sanjil Shu, and the Sanjil not Kunyangal in dinner, Luni don't Gajak to le, not shoot Pearl Nores.
That's good. Nitong.
Nidu Gajare.
Gotcha.
And they'll do you yard. Hamu Tama maybe she will Nidu Gajade do there.
Shape it.
Good.
76 once. Oh, John.
Ngani nyangal Luni don't Gajale, Doma change you to Chuta on your rose. Doma change people Doma Dumabo.
To the red face, 2,500 years after my passing. Nitong Acha, 2,500 years after my passing, the teachings will disseminate to the round red face, says round red faces. Dumba Marpo.
People Duma Mabolo, Dumang use.
Duma.
Domang Jibare.
Okay, lo Nitong Acha. The Sanjay Anenle Depa. The
Sanjay Yangal in the long Nidunga Jag, not shoot Bull.
Okay, Lapsar. Selbo Lapsar.
버차도 주론도 그거 넣고 그래. 한번 저만에 비비.
The Lamo Drima Mepa, the Ming?
한번 저만에 봐서 다들 상지 시적들 한번 주여지로다. 한번 저만에 비 상지 주여지로. 근데 나비 주에 별 가지다 그래서 슈들은 상지 나냥할인데네. 론이 동아자가 돼서 안에 나주 별로 그래서 노마제 주유도 다와주로스.
Then the Kabiyare, the Lamo Drima Mepa, the Sanji, the the Geshe Kabiyare. Dene Lamo Drima Mepa Shupi Dele.
저만에 비슈빈도 주여지로. 저만에 비슈빈도 돼. 한번 저만에 상지를 주여지로. 근데 상지기 주에 별 가지도 그래서
Yine Kabiyare. Layu Jakar.
되는도 자갈이요 들었다.
Jakaryu.
상지기 자갈을 송거로.
Okay.
자갈을 상지기 최송으로 와. 되는 별 가지다 그래서
Okay.
한번 저만에 상지
The goddess
주여지로.
of stainless.
상지기 나냥을인데네.
Okay.
론이 동아자
Selbudu.
있어서 도마제 주유도
Lesso.
나주 다와주로.
Yanin did. Selbudu. Ni. Selbudu.
어떻게 징해고도다.
Tamche Chambi. Okay, so 2,500 years after my passing into nirvana, so the goddess called the stainless goddess came to Buddha in India. So that's the person's name, the stainless goddess. So this is a story in the authentic Indian commentary. So someone named the stainless goddess came to Lord Buddha and asked what will become of the teachings. And the Buddha answered that in 2,500 years after my passing, the teachings will disseminate to the land of the round red faces, in the mountains. I wish I had more time than here. The Domar, the Kangala, the Domarpi Chuji Tamche, the Lapsa. So the place. So Rinpoche is saying the place of the round red faces is a word that's used to mean Tibet. The place of round red faces means Tibet. So when we look at the Jerup, the Jataka, we look at the Jerup, the Jataka tales, and we see the various stories of the Buddha and so forth. Isn't that the okay? When we see the previous history, okay. When we look at the word for history sounds exactly like the Jataka tales. So when we look at history, we can see that the dissemination of these teachings and so forth were prophesied by Lord Buddha, and we can find them in these texts. Diksum. Tambo. Lesso. So we want to find out about the teachings going to China, because they were to China before Tibet. So Rinpoche is saying where we're going to find that information, because that's what it's historically is presented, that's how it was. So Rinpoche is saying he'd like to find it in the texts. Lesso. So when we look at the history of the lineages of all the various Buddhisms, we see we ask, when did it get to Tibet? When did it get to China? And when it got to China, then how did it go to Vietnam and Sri Lanka and Thailand and the various other places where it disseminated?
What the sondu.
And this is what is stated.
Ta somba te tar so de na wan ku so te ma do ye gi la sa ye re. Je so somba ta rang gi khan jin shu mo jo was, khan jin shu mo jo was. Somba gaza so ran den do me ba ga ba ne, gaza so ran den so me ba ga ba ne. Te tar rang gi ta gaza so ran den dos Gei zawa dang, le longshe ki jimba dang tu nga lo randun tang juwe ma yendun tang wu res, wate son din zare. Sonba gaza su randun tu meba gaba ne. Ane lari jima dan do se te tar rangi kanzi shu ma jo was. Te tar rangi kanzi shu ma jo wa. Sonja chunga wu le ya. Son chuba ta dan do, chuba ta.
Dita Rangi Gamitsin. Okay. Okay, so we're on page 55. Again, at the bottom, right after the quote from the Shunju, from the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, from Shantideva. After that, it says, "Thus, neither be self-centered nor support." That's number 3. So 2 ends after Shantideva. The number 3 begins there. Dikson.
What is it? Tanda Chilo, Sanjik Kunyanga Lende, Lunin, Dungaja Tuso, Doman Jangatul, Najutan of Sonrota. Sanjik Kunyanga Lea Yorubas, Trisona, Sanji Shea Yorubas, Trisona, Sanji, she, Tweetan Baramato, Sanji Kunyanga Lea Yomares, Yangali Tweetan Kunyanga de Tweetan, Lunin, Dungaja Tuso, Doman Jangatul. What is our Gurus, Marbe?
Gine the Dundagar.
Sanji Kunyangal, Sanji shows Logoro, Sanji show Ayu.
She, dead.
Show your Maro.
Okay, less so.
She is sweet and Baramato.
Less so.
Sanji Kunyangal, the sweet and Baramato, share your Maro, Sanjila.
Less so.
Chedak du John Sabro.
Less so. So when we speak of this 25 years after passing into nirvana, we have to understand that a Buddha doesn't actually die. So when we say this passing into nirvana, this is an appearance of passing. It's it's called the appearance of passing, where a Buddha has escaped death. So the Buddha no longer is within conditioned existence. So the Buddha has escaped death, has cheated death. So no longer dies. So when Buddha states that he or she, in this case he, will, this or that will happen after his passing, that passing is just the word being used there. It's not an actual passing or a death. Because the word passing means death also. When you look at the word that they're translating, it means death. After, my dying in going to nirvana, dying in going to nirvana. It can be translated as dying and going to nirvana, or passing into nirvana, but it's really dying and going, and that's why there's debate about it, because it says dying and going, but it doesn't. There's no death there. Buddha doesn't die, so that's the point that's made. So the Buddha, 2,500 years after his seeming passing, then will be found in the teachings in the land of the snows. So just as the translators know, when there's no Buddha in the world, the teachings serve as the Buddha. The words on the page are the Buddha. So 2,500 years from now, the Buddha will appear in Tibet, in the land of the snows, in the form of the words. Dikson. Oh, Mara.
What the Duji de Sanji Jonsabra, Duji Jumba, Duji Jumba, Chugu, and then some behavior. Duji Jumba, what the Chemeshi, Netula, Chidi Joa Mebishi, Duji Jumba, Chugu, and then some behavior. Julama, Josh among them.
So there are 4 maras that is said that the Buddha has beaten. So the mara of the Duji Gare,
폼비디
the mara of the aggregates,
폼비디 다도 그의 폼부터 말해.
and those are the aggregates of the cyclic existence.
녀모비디
The mara of the afflictions,
녀모비디지. 근데 체다기디
the death, the mara of death.
라이베디
Then Gare,
Lai Pei Du.
the Jason, Lai Pei.
라이베 두가랑원쇼로 두수 네바제도 메지로 두지 좀 와스 상질로와데 상지가 라면 라이 마모요 두이 마모요 말베 월라도술래 라이베디라 그러다
The Mara, it's something like gods, or it's something like gods, or Mara of gods. I don't know. The 4th one, I couldn't remember how to translate. So the Mara of afflictions, the Mara of death, the Mara of the aggregates. I'll find it. Just give me a moment. And the Mara, we'll call it of gods for now. Okay, decent.
상지가 두지 좀 사바 인상 통지 상지 샤요 말고 냥을 내요 말에스
So the Buddha does not die. The Buddha has transcended the Mara of death. So therefore, we don't say that when the Buddha passes, that the Buddha has died, because we know that that doesn't occur, because the Buddha has transcended that state. Okay, Diksong Rinpoche.
오야 당아서 어디 송반된 말로나 고수 송바 어디 안 그땐 거로 라차유지래 대다랑기 칸지메지 바스
Okay.
송바 그자수 거와당 류롱셔로서 것도 승거로 지마 당주로 라던 당주 말 젠든 당고레스
Less so.
대다랑기 칸진 슈메 좋아 랑기 류당 롱슈 랑 소시 류라다 롱슈 자야 통하로서 그 말에 카르당 캄바당 류롱슈 그다남 되바 멤버 신전나라 동유 루양양 신전나라 땅유 루대양 공고레스 공 임바당 임바를 공바지고레스 류롱슈 류임바 롱슈 임바 그다 임바당을 공바지고 상로만 당고레스
Lo Jimba.
류임바 당유로 담을 류진신 비빌레 샤자 투베게네 담을 류임바 당하게
less so.
류임바 당 롱슈임바
Less
당야
so.
그자임바 당야 워도 그걸로 젠든 당고레스 라던 당주에 말에 손대사래
Then Sar, Sumba Sar.
워도 그 단다 참아든 마무도데
Moire.
다다 랑기 칸지 슈면 머조와 랑기 르당 르지마 당야 롱셰 지마 당야 그자 지마 당남 되바 메바 신전라 동유 로양양 양와당 신전라 당유 로데 양양고레스 르당 롱셰 지마 당스는 달 르당 롱셰 지마 당원에 고요 마다 그 동생도 공원은 되고다
Less so.
동생도 공원은 되고레스
Less so.
말라제바 상제 사버레 말라제바지 제마다 가까이요 마데 공원에 타송으로
Less so.
공원에 상제 중으로 마도 제마다 원은 다 고마로
Less so.
동유 로야야 장와다스 간라 땅이 뒤든 샤고신스 간라 제마다서 되게 신전이 된다 샤고레스 샤고신 들라 로바두바 머리베스 제마다유 유들 로바두바 네 도자든 제주에 말스
Less so.
머리베 르라소바다라 랑기 된도 미비 로가바샤데스 라던 땅의 가네 젠던 땅고 젠던 동서 짐바 르짐바 그자짐바 땅고레스 가버샤데 다네 젠지 온주지 다네 젠지 온주지 니 유치네바 Shejela, sentient Gundun Matuba, Tan Chuji, Gemazans, Tan Chuji Gemazan, Jewa Jiba Mela Subayi, Rada Druba, Zemayi, Tene Mela Subayi, Tela Luba, Shah Maris Jesus, Tamati what the Kunderin was the Kun. Teta Rangi Kanjing Shumazimba, Chumazawa Rangi Ludan, Rangi Lujibataya, Longshe Jimbataya, Rangi Gita Jimbataya, Nan Tuba Meba, Sentient la Ton Yu Lu de Yang Congures, Sentient la Ton Yu, Lu Yang, Jean Dans, Yang Jean, quand la Jimbatan Sagi, Sentient de Tunda Chegures, Tun Shagujin, Tella Luba Duba, Meribes, ne tella what the Nebaja and Motan Jeju Mares, Tella Luba Duba Meribe, Lula Subatadala, Ragi Tunda Mibi, Randon Jimbatan at Kane, Gabrashade, Dan Jen with that Shuju in Samarbe, Susan, Shuju Sondos,
Less so.
Dan Jen want to be on your chair. You should never see jealous. The genuine Santa to Yabashigures. Sentient good Matuba, Sentient Tunisia Matu, Tani Chuji, Jameson, Jangutundashi Matu, Randon Santa Yomaris. Jewa Mela Subaye, Randon Druba Remayes, Mela Subi, the Randon Druba Digmares. Tedun Mela Subaye, Tella Lobasha Marisos, Jimba Dansa Udil Duja than Jeju Mares,
Less so.
what is one he said,
Less so.
about what the Sumbatre.
Less so. Okay, so number 3. Thus, neither be self-centered nor support self-centered tendencies. You must train again and again in the attitude of freely giving to all beings your own body, resources, and roots of virtue, and you must work for the welfare of those to whom you give these things. It is wrong to do the opposite, so stop the attitude which sees your own body, resources, and roots of virtue as being for your own purposes. So here one should abandon the attitude of self-cherishing, because its root is a self-centered attitude that comes from self-centered tendencies. And in order to do that, in order to transform that mind, it's necessary to familiarize yourself with an attitude of cherishing others. So it says again and again here, you must train again and again in the attitude. That means you must meditate on this attitude. Familiarize yourself with this attitude. And it says here, freely giving to all beings your own body, resources, and roots of virtue. So you don't have to actually give your body or give everything you have away. You can do this in the form of a meditation where you're meditating that you're giving away your body, just to try to get rid of this self-cherishing, self-centered attitude, that you are meditating that you are being generous with all of these things. Because when we look at the story of Milarepa, the master from Tibet who achieved Buddhahood in one lifetime, he had nothing. He didn't have any material items or anything to offer. All of his offerings were mental offerings, imagined offerings. And Milarepa was able to achieve Buddhahood in that lifetime by that type of generosity. So it doesn't mean that it has to be the type of generosity you would normally think of, where you give everything you have away, or your body you literally somehow gives to a tiger or something. But here it's a meditation. But there actually is a story in the previous stories of the Buddha where he gave his body to a tiger cubs that needed to eat, where he actually scraped his skin off. And it's called the generosity of giving his own flesh, because they were hungry and had nothing to eat. And he gave some of his own flesh so that they wouldn't starve. And it's called the generosity of giving flesh. But for people like us, Rinpoche said, who aren't these bodhisattvas that can feed tigers with their body, we meditate in this way. We imagine it. We familiarize ourselves with it. Okay, so in Milarepa was able to do so without having any of these things to offer. And then we have a quote from Shantideva again, the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. I am controlled by others. You, O mind, know this for certain. Now do not think of anything other than the welfare of all beings. It is wrong to achieve my own aims. With my eyes, etc., that are under others' control, therefore, it is incorrect to do wrong to others, with my eyes, etc., that are for their welfare. So here, it's that transformation of that attitude. It's wrong to wish to just achieve my own aims. That doesn't. It's saying the wording is work for my own needs only. Really, there's wrongdoing. It's my own aims, but it's really like only for me, self-centered, my needs only, my needs alone. So it's wrong to achieve my own aims, means to have that selfishness, that selfish attitude. And I think that's all. That's all of three. Dikso Rinpoche.
다 지바도 와서도 지바드네. 지바 루수랑도 제나서 왔대. 네, 지바우도 르라서 바우도 마 지바레.
그래서
르라서 보고서 안게는 라유지레.
합
르라서 바도 소소 르데 네, 와데 신지 전부 공학의 땡 인상의 배주 칼라사 자통 와들 제는 신지 전부 공 샹바공 샹주의 생공야. 제부 중국의 통무의 라공야. 네도 통무의 라공야. 집이 라공야. 어디서 배제제게 예상바지네 안에 소속의 사야도 동아도 조사는 르도 어떤 게 배제되는 제게 상당 그래서 르라소바라 제대도 미바 쇼데스 네 랑기 된라 미바 르가의 예지jen라 네바셰바 하나 된 하야 타면비 네발라 자르 다동야 팬바들 쥐발라 트네 대원도 손에 동에 신도 머제바 제도 냐네 가브샤데스 와데 라제지도 가고르 손도 말바 라제도 가고르 손데레
그래서
최제고 갈라비 허지 뒤데 제인데 안에게주 간도로 최지대바 근중사 다동달라 랑기든 유연여 셈바 뜻도시 다기jen라 최종지 다기jen라 최종지 조마센 슈샤푸스 게데 밤에 전에 추 세제나라 마지나 최지구 녀와이 소만나라 진도게 대다 최지 대다시 르다시 그 신비 뒤리도 다는 큰나 단시대 최저라도 삼바주 셰소어드바돌
Jiba Kabaka Rinpoche.
Jiba
Shinju Lay?
제바카드 셰소스 두시지도 어떤 카레 대진도서 올마 제발레원레
Okay. then a dejin tu shen la chepar zimbi
Oh,
ben yang yang
te
de
nga-
je
te
ngapa. Okay,
ngapa.
tu chena. Okay,
Te
so
ngapa
number
le
4.
Yeah. Kale ju kale.
Number 4 is page 56, again, right after the Shantideva quote. If you lose the thought that your body, etc., are for others' welfare and think that they are for your own benefit, or if you see them as agents of physical, verbal, or mental harm to others, then stop this way of thinking by contemplating how this previously brought you limitless harm and how you are still mistaken with regard to its appearance of helpfulness, which is false. If you are controlled by this wrong way of thinking, it produces only unbearable suffering. Engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds says, when you, self-cherishing, ruined me before, that was another time. Now I recognize you. Where will you go? I will destroy all your arrogance. Dispel the thought, I still have my own welfare. I have sold you, my mind, to others. Do not be dispirited. Offer your energy. If I become careless and do not give you to beings, you will certainly give me over to the guardians of hell. Speaking of the body. Thus, you gave me over to long periods of suffering. Now I remember my grudges. I will destroy your selfish thoughts.
This one. Oh, the jibat kichi mdu ah.
And so number 4 is so important.
Ta ngapa den ma te yung do ngapa den ma.
So body, I
Je jin jin
don't think there's anything else.
yun jong an ne je jin de jin do. Ta je jin jin wo de ta den ma. Ngapa de jin do jen las.
Oh, the Rinpoche, Gongel Mepachi.
Yeah.
Nge the Kashe Jason.
Kale ju kale ju.
Gongel Mepachi.
Yeah.
So we need to be thinking that of this thought. I knew I'd forgotten something. It was too short. We need to be thinking of this thought that I'm taking care of my body in order to benefit others. I'm taking care of myself so that I'm eating this food and drinking this drink so that I can become stronger, so that I can generate the great compassion. So I'm doing this so I can generate love through the force of attraction, generate bodhicitta. I'm taking care of myself so I can live longer, so I'll be able to engage in the pathways for beings of small, medium, and great capacity. So we should be thinking in these terms when we go about taking care of our bodies, that we're doing so for the sake of others, so that we can become Buddhas, so that we can eventually be of use to everyone. This is, it says, if you lose the thought that your body are for others' welfare and think that they are for your own benefit, or if you see them as agents of physical, verbal, or mental harm to others, then stop this way of thinking. So look at the body as an agent that allows you to get to Buddhahood, that allows you to, if sustained, learn more. So this is how one should think. Deep.
Ta ngomolu je wa ta ngomolu je khala sa de marwe. Kazi me dan da wa riba yi. De sha she na me ba den ju de. Ja ji ma la, cha ji ma lu ne ma ji shres. Na kazi de me dan du je ja de sa gu res. Ne zo jab che jab cha che to kazi khala sa ju ma res. Kazi me dan da wa riba yi. Ja shi ma la, nye bi shi ma la, cha ji ma la. 르네 마지셔스 추두비 르덴 네비체도 제부 중국도 통유주 린도 통유주 제비 준비 추두비 르덴 네비체도 인상바제네 자동화 갈아서 어떻게 고래
베치가레
고물루게 시디이 나오던 지여로다 가슴 해던다와 리바이 되사시나 매번 내제데 자시말라 녜비시말라 사시말라 르네 마지셔스 칼라 통화 자사도 그걸로 제비 중국도 주 통주 진도 통주 제비 주 주비 르네비체도 인상바제네 사고 동우레스.
So in Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, the advice is given that in all acts, when eating and drinking and so forth, that one should be doing so in order to abandon the negativities, abandon attachment, abandon the afflictions, be doing so in order to engage in the pathways for beings of small, medium, and great capacity. So this should be the reasoning behind it. There's this point. The point is that this point is made in Nagarjuna's letter to a friend in a very similar way. Khensur Rinpoche.
Tā ngā bā tēn tēshīn tu yīn lā jēbān zīmbī pēnyuān yāyāng, ngā bā tēshīn tu yīn lā jēbān zīmbī jēnzī lī pēnyuān yāyāng sāng nē, hīn tā bā nē tūshū jē tē, yīn yawān du yu lō mā jēbā tāng, yīn yawān du yu lō mā jēbā tāng, jēbā jūn tū tu mā shū jīn, yīn lā pōng bā tāng, dō bā tāng, yi dong wa ji ji gu ne ha ra la jie ban zhen ba yin la jie ban zhen lo jie ba sha de yin na da jin zong wa sha xie so wa de ba de nga ba de te zhe ma de mu do.
Okay, so number 5, similarly, when you repeatedly reflect on the benefits of cherishing others, you produce powerful enthusiasm from the depths of your heart. Discontinue your present attitude of Kabar Kagadu Rinpoche?
Deba dere.
Nyun, Mambo Yomare.
Yena daji zonwa sha xie so wote dusi ji duwa, wote kare. Xie so.
Shenam Dajin.
Zonwa sha xie so dusi ji duwa, wote bata nga bare.
Oh. She so. Huh. Shenam Dajin Zonwaja She so. Huh. Detar Semchen Chepa Zimba. Okay, so it just ends there. Similarly, when you repeatedly reflect on the benefits of cherishing others, you produce powerful enthusiasm from the depths of your heart. Discontinue your present attitude of disregarding others and keep your potential disregard of others from arising. That's number 5.
What nga so gwa du so ngwa ya ba je wo sin ta je tong du sang ji go mo to ba ju ngwa je go res. Chue te ba ji ja sun sa ba ina ja sun mo ga ba se ge ma res. Ana nga so gwa de sin ta je tong so sang ji go mo to ju ngwa ba ina sang ji go mo ma to ba de se ge ma re. Sang ji ne de se ge ma ro ta. Cha ta ja chu chu na chu ti ta re. Ja sun mo ga ba de me se. De ji shang chu yang gwa yang Shangchu matuba temezis. Senje tangche kato zubi shangchu khonsha yo na gawa de kadu peche jeba yina ya zuwa yo ma ya pewa yin sarita.
Less so.
Menga ku chui la ya ga yo aris. Ne son ma jeba gawa sega ma aris.
Less so.
Jeba zuwa ma aris.
Sheching Long Rasong.
Riason. What
The
the
Rasong. So then in the letter to a friend, it says, food should be taken properly, as though it were medicine, without desire or hatred, not for conceit, arrogance, or robustness. Actually, I think it says to abandon, but anyway, this is this translation. As though it were medicine without desire or hatred, not for conceit, arrogance, or robustness, but only to maintain the body. I think it's to maintain the body in order to abandon desire, hatred, conceit, and arrogance. The body should be robust so that one can abandon. So anyway, that's just another translation of letter to a friend. We can look into that later. But again, food should be taken properly as though it were medicine. Abandon desire or hatred and conceit and arrogance. Maintain the body and remain robust. Okay, so that's the quote. And then it's very important that we do a dedication. When we do proper dedication, then the virtue remains until we achieve Buddhahood, and it doesn't just disappear into some simple form of worldly happiness. The Buddha stated, like a drop of water from a bucket that's put into the ocean does not disintegrate until the entire ocean disintegrates. Likewise, a virtue that's been properly dedicated to complete enlightenment does not disappear until that complete enlightenment occurs. So that's why dedication is so important, so that the virtue is pointed at a specific goal, and that goal is Buddhahood.
다 그와 치부터 중 가서 있는 거 마지막에 있나 안 바네나 트레이너 레비지 부지자도 존데 인사です.
So it doesn't matter. So we want our virtues to be like a mango tree that constantly produces fruits. We don't want it to be like a banana tree that just ripens into one result and then perishes. So it doesn't matter how great or small the virtue that we engage in. If we don't properly dedicate it, then it's like that banana tree. It produces a quick result of happiness, and then it no longer is there. Whereas if it's properly dedicated, it stays around until it produces that final result of Buddhahood.
동샤가 타들어디 고메 고말라메 라마 요송고 라나마 바야다가 주비상 주도 요송고 죠 제단데베 선지 존데 나죠송고 바다 제단 마젬베 선지 존데 나죠송고 안 좋아다 제다다다죠 선지 존데 나 홍아제바 대진도 다그장 요송고 죠 what
and then we also find in the Sutra of the Three Heaps, or the 35 Buddhas of Confession, where it says to the Buddhas, I'd just like to read it if I could find it. Where is it in this book? The 35 Buddhas. It's in here, right? Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Page 43.
But is the sutra before and after? Yeah, it is. Okay.
탈.
Yeah. All the Bhagav... just as in the previous Buddha Bhagavans fully dedicated, just as the future Buddha's Bhagavans will fully dedicate, and just as the presently abiding Buddha Bhagavans are fully dedicating, like that I too fully dedicate fully. So it's important that we make our dedications like that. I think that's all Rinpoche read. I'm going to, just in case, read just a little bit. I fully dedicate to the unsurpassed, the unexcelled, that higher than the high, the superior to the superior. Thus I completely dedicate to the highest, perfectly complete enlightenment. Just as the previous Buddha Bhagavans have fully dedicated, just as the future Buddha Bhagavans will fully dedicate, and just as the presently abiding Buddha Bhagavans are fully dedicating, like that too, I too fully dedicate fully. So if you can dedicate virtue in this way, it's very good. So we'll do the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drakpa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. Whatever dedication is praised as supreme, I'll traverse the 3 times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. Pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara, Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. Pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Rinpoche, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts, and wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche, Gutsi Shapi Denronang, Atsu Lamrim Chenmo Kama Trionang.
아버지 예수 도셔 나스